must be maintained because, as Hippocrates said, all disease begins in the gut. And one of the reasons people are sick today is because of a compromised gut flora. And these cultured foods are vital to help restore that. Lining the villi is a thick turf wall, and that thick turf wall is made of Lactobacillus acidophilus and Bifidus bacterium, called our microbiome. And when we were in our mother's utero, our gut was sterile, no bacteria there. But when we were born, we were literally showered with our mother's microorganisms. And those microorganisms, Lactobacillus acidophilus, Bifidus bacterium, they're the two permanent ones, and from them all the thousands of others are made. And these microorganisms are responsible for the final breakdown of our food. But didn't the breakdown happen with our enzymes? It certainly did. But these microorganisms, they're responsible for the release of our B vitamins. These microorganisms are responsible for the production of melatonin. And as we'll find out later in the week, melatonin is an important hormone that helps us sleep at night. These microorganisms are also important in the production of glutathione. And glutathione is a very potent antioxidant, called the most potent antioxidant. These microorganisms are also responsible for the absorption of the nutrients out of our gut and into our blood. These microorganisms are also important for the nourishment of the cells that line the gastrointestinal tract. These microorganisms play another role. They protect the blood against any harmful pathogens that may be in the gut. You might have heard the quote of Hippocrates, called the father of medicine. He said, all disease begins in the gut. Because these microorganisms, they play an integral role, yes, in the protection of our blood, but also in that final breakdown, but also in the absorption. It is said in an assessment of Alzheimer's that many Alzheimer patients are lacking B vitamins. Are they lacking B vitamins because they're lacking gut flora? Many things that people are taking today are killing off the gut flora, antibiotics. That's what the word means. And if we're living organisms, we've got to get away from the kill mentality. Because anything that has the ability to kill a small organism has the potential to kill a large. See, what happens is, you put the antibiotic there, it kills the bacteria, but some of the bacteria actually adapt and adjust and get stronger and become immune to the antibiotics. And that's what the World Health Organization claimed, that the biggest health care risk today is the overuse of antibiotics, to the point that there are some people that are becoming immune to antibiotics. So when they are needed, they're actually not working. And with Jacqueline, she tells the story that it got to the point she was put on a very heavy dose. In fact, I think it was 2 courses at once, very heavy. She started to lose her eyesight. She was only in her late 30s. She went to the eye doctor, and the eye doctor said, there's nothing wrong with your eyes. But she sat and thought about it, and I think it all happens to all of us. What's going on? All the princes have is more antibiotics, more antibiotics, and more antibiotics. And what's the definition of insanity? To do what you've always done and expect different results. It's not working. Antibiotics, yes, they kill the good and the bad alike. One writer said, when a person takes an antibiotic, it's like they're dropping an atomic bomb in the gastrointestinal tract. What did the atomic bomb do? It killed the good and the bad alike. I'm not against antibiotics, but I believe most people should have about 2 courses in their lifetime. How many people are having 2 a year? I raised all my children without antibiotics and they're all still alive. Remember that basic law of science, nothing's created, nothing's destroyed, it just changes form. And it changes form according to the environment. I have 3 compost bins at home. One, I'm adding to scraps from the kitchen, weeds from the garden, maybe some cow manure from the farmer down the road because he doesn't use any chemicals. And then the next compost bin, it's a yard by yard by yard. So they're big compost bins. So the middle compost bin, it's sitting. It's just waiting for matter to be brought back to dust. And then the third compost bin, it's ready to go into my garden. I know because pumpkin plants are coming up, pawpaw plants are coming up, tomato plants are springing up. It's ready to go in the garden. And I pick it up and I smell it and it smells like earth. I was reading one book on compost and they say we always get women to smell it. They've got a keener sense of smell. And so let's have a look at what happens when I put that into my garden. Here's a plant in my garden. Now, if I have a crop of tomato in my soil and all the tomatoes are picked and the tomato plant dies, before I put another crop in, and by the way, if I have a top crop, the next crop I put in will be a root crop. So you alternate it because different plants take different nutrients out of the soil. But before I put another crop in, I feed the soil. I shovel loads of compost and dig it into the soil. And what am I doing when I do that? I'm putting little microorganisms into my soil because that's what my compost is full of, microorganisms. And those microorganisms, they now play another role. They are responsible for the breakdown of the minerals in the dirt. And they are responsible for the absorption of the minerals into the roots of the plant. They also protect the plant against harmful pathogens. Is this sounding familiar? They nourish the plant. And the plant knows that it needs those microorganisms, so 50% of the fuel that it makes according to photosynthesis, it sends back down to the roots to feed the plant. It's almost as if the plant says, please stay, I'll feed you well. Because that plant knows that it needs those microorganisms to be able to access the minerals out of the soil and into the plant. It's an amazing process. So my daughter Jessica, one of her little girls, whenever she put little Lotus on the grass, while she put the clothes on the line, little Lotus would put her finger in between the grass, get dirt and eat it. And the next day when Jessica changed her nappy, you call it a diaper, what was in the nappy? Dirt. Because remember, our gastrointestine is a hollow tube. Goes in one end and out the other. And we cannot access the minerals in the dirt. We can't access it. But God made an amazing process in these little microorganisms. They have the ability to break down those minerals and cause them to be absorbed into the plant. They protect the plant against any harmful pathogens that might be in the soil, and they nourish the plant. The law of service is written on every plant in nature. Every plant in nature takes with one reason: it takes to give. A beautiful lesson for humanity. What does the Bible say? Freely you have received, freely give. So these microorganisms are actually not our enemy. These microorganisms are an important part of life on the planet and life in the body. In our last lecture, we looked at the lining of the gastrointestinal tract and noticed that these villoes that line the gastrointestinal tract, They look very much like the roots of the plant, and they play a similar role. And they aligned with microorganisms. Remember those Lactobacillus acidophilus and bifidus bacterium? That's the microorganisms that line the gut. And in our last lecture, we looked at how they are responsible for the exact same thing that they do in the soil. Things don't just happen. It's just like, let's say, there was a watermark up on the roof there. And so the builder comes in and paints over it. 2 weeks later, it comes back. So he paints over it again. Is that fixing the problem? No, it's not fixing the problem, because eventually the roof falls in. Because he didn't find out why the watermark is there. So when there's a problem in your body, it's your body speaking to you saying, excuse me, can you do something about this? Excuse me, can you attend to that? But the problem is today, so many people don't know how to attend to it. You give the body the right conditions and your house clean will actually be accomplished very quickly. Because the healing powers that are in the body that seal a cut, that heal a broken bone, and look, my wrist is healed now. Do you know what an orthopedic surgeon said to me one day? He said, we can set a bone, we can't heal it. That is true. It's the body and the body alone that can heal. Germs don't cause disease. They're the result of unhelpful conditions. Just basically tip the scales. You've heard of the straw that broke the camel's back. A piece of straw can't break a camel's back, but on the end of all of the other things, it'll tip the scales. I'll tell you a really good way to calm the emotions: deep breathing. I call it God's LSD, long, slow, deep. Breathing through the nose and breathing long, slow and deep. That stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, and the parasympathetic nervous system is your calming nervous system. Breathing like this, high chest through the mouth, that stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight and flight nervous system. In the book of Ministry of Healing, in the chapter, The Physician, the Educator, after the sentence, let the physicians teach the people that restorative power lies not in drugs, but in nature. The next sentence is, disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that arise because of a violation of the basic laws of health. Yeah. A violation of the basic laws of health: not drinking enough water, going to bed too late, not eating nourishing food, not getting sunshine, not exercising, because they're the basic conditions required for the proper functioning of the human body. People say to me, how do you keep up the pace, Barbara? I say, I found a formula. And this formula sustains me. And my book, Sustain Me, is an acronym for those basic laws of health. Florence Nightingale, she said, disease is a process of repair, not necessarily accompanied by suffering. She said, if the patient suffers, it's the nurse's fault for not applying the laws of nursing. And those laws of nursing basically are the laws of health. Dr. Jackson from America in the mid-1800s, he called them the laws of life. What are they? They're the Sustain Me principles: sunshine, use of water, sleep, trust in God, stop anything that harms, inhale through the nose, proper nutrition, moderation in all the good things, exercise. And in that chapter, The Physician, the Educator, the author says, these are the true remedies.